Fake it till you make it is the worst piece of advice in the modern business world. If you're trying to use daily affirmations to manifest confidence, you're actively destroying your foundation. I'm going to show you exactly how you can build an authentic confidence that doesn't collapse under pressure. Your brain is not stupid. So if you lie to yourself and you try to create a fake confidence, this lying to yourself, it's just going to get detected immediately by your brain. You're going to create internal friction, and you're just going to operate in a place where you have a major internal conflict that's happening inside your head. Now, this is not going to work. It's not a long-term solution. It's not going to lead to any sort of real confidence. And anything that you're going to get from these affirmations is going to be very, very temporary and create a longer-term problem. So the thing is, you have to understand, you can't out-affirm a broken identity. Your identity is not intact. It's not strong. You don't have a strong foundation. Then you have to realize that you have to work on that first, because true confidence is not a mood that you can just manifest. It's a structural reality that you're actively working to build. So in NLP, we have something that we call the logical levels of change. And I'm going to bring it up here on the screen. So the logical levels of change is here. So what you can see at the bottom is environment, and then it goes up to behaviors and capabilities. And then after that is the work that goes into your identity, which comes from beliefs and values, then your actual identity, and then your purpose and your spiritual connection. Now, I call this area in the middle the identity gap. The reason I call it this is that at the lower three levels of environment, behavior, and capabilities, this is where people grind and try to make changes. Problem is, you really need to be making changes at the higher levels first in order for the changes to stick. And I will say this, capabilities are still important when it comes to confidence. So I will discuss that. Now, if you look at these questions to the right, you can see what they ask. Purpose is tied to the question of what else? Identity is who. The beliefs and values are why. And then capabilities are how. And then behavior is what. And then the environment is just where and when. Now, most founders, they try to fix their imposter syndrome at the bottom levels. They try to change their environment, try to force some new behavior like standing taller or repeating affirmations. That is, what they're doing. That's a behavior and an environmental shift, right? So they're looking at, okay, maybe they try to use the behavior of the affirmations, repeating affirmations in some new routine or something like that. Maybe they try to shift where their office is or, where they're located or something like that too. But really, if your core identity is not in alignment, none of the behavior is going to stick. None of it's going to mean anything because you're still going to feel and believe that you're an unconfident fraud, to be frank. That's just what it is. You're going to feel like you cannot really, really be secure in yourself because if there's something in your identity that's wrong. So what you can do is actually work on the higher levels first. When you work on the higher levels first, everything will trickle down to the lower levels. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that you can ignore capabilities. They are important. You do have to have the skills. So I will be clear on that. When it comes down to it, you can't be confident in something if you don't actually have the skill set. So I will be clear on that aspect of this. Don't ignore capabilities. You can't just do identity work and be good to go if you're working in an area that you just simply don't have a skill set in, because that's just not going to work. Because then you're still also lying to yourself, because then there's a capabilities problem. So you do have to have capabilities, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But I want you to understand that behavioral hacks, they just don't stick. The foundation will always crack if you don't work at the higher levels. So when I was building my digital agency, before I built my agency, I had to start off earlier on in the career. When I was 23 years old, I was talking to C-level executives, 40s and 50-year-olds that were high up in companies. They had a whole career. I'm some 23-year-old guy trying to consult with them. And it was just, I had major imposter syndrome. I did not feel confident. And it was hard to to deal with, because I had to go into these calls, lead these conversations on marketing strategy with some really difficult people. I remember in particular, I had this one client who was in New York City, and he was an older, tough New Yorker. And, I grew up in New Jersey, so I was used to it, but it was still really just intense. So you can't fake it in those boardrooms. You can't do it. They would have seen right through me. So I just had to be completely honest with who I was and where I was at in my career and just have the humility to just approach it the right way. Now, I built up my skill set over time so that eventually my capabilities gave me more and more confidence. Now, later on, after I had my skill set built up, I was able to then also do deep, deep identity work so that I could align my internal map with my capabilities. Then true confidence followed. So this was something that allowed me to really grow my career and then grow my own company to consistent 6-figure months and then a 7-figure exit. And it was a beautiful thing. But you can't skip the capabilities and you can't skip the identity work that's required. So if you're an established founder and you're white knuckling your leadership, you're dealing with imposter syndrome, anxiety, all that kind of stuff as you're trying to scale and you need to fix your foundation, just click the link in the description and you can book a free one-on-one discovery call with me and we can map out your internal bottlenecks. We can engineer your next stage of growth together and we can figure out if we are a right fit to work together. So if you're trying to build confidence with affirmations, it's like trying to build a building, like a skyscraper, let's say, on a foundation of sand. We all know that when you're building a skyscraper, you have to do some pretty serious work for the foundation, for a building like that to stand tall. There's a ton of work that goes into the foundation, drilling into bedrock, having a lot of concrete, cement. There's a lot to it. There's a lot that needs to be engineered for the foundation to be strong enough to support a building of that kind of structure. You can't just start building a building like that on sand, because if you did, what would happen? Well, you'd start painting the walls, you'd put some furniture in there, buy a bunch of stuff, make it look really nice, and you could maybe make it look like a sturdy building, and you could tell everyone it's a sturdy building, but as soon as a storm hits, the whole thing is going to collapse. And this is the same thing with fake confidence. You can fake it and maybe get away with it for a very brief period, but as soon as something comes in to shake it up, it's going to crumble. And that is just going to be a huge, huge problem. You have to drill down to the bedrock. You have to do this, your identity and your spiritual purpose. And so when you want to look at doing this, the way that you want to do it is with really just 3 structural shifts. These 3 structural shifts will build authentic confidence. So the prerequisite, the first one, is basically your capabilities. You cannot be confident in something you have 0 skills in. I already said this before, and I already alluded to this before. You have to put the reps in to build an actual baseline of confidence in whatever it is. So you can't skip this step. Let's be real, you can't skip it. Now, if once you have capabilities and skills, you can move on to step 2. And what that is I call this kind of like the context transfer. It's transferring your context, transferring your experiences. So you identify an area of your life. And this comes from NLP, from neuro-linguistic programming, where you identify an area of your life where you are dangerously confident, where you have extreme confidence. So it might be a hobby. It might be some past success, a sport. It could be something in your life that you know that you just have this extreme confidence. So I want you to just isolate that and just look at your identity in that area where you know that you have that confidence. And then what you're going to do is neurologically map the same values and beliefs onto your current business bottleneck. So if you know, for example, what it feels like to be confident in what you do. So let's say you already have the capabilities and skills, but you're still lacking this confidence in the business context, even though you have the capabilities and skills. But you have this confidence in a different area. Like I said, maybe it's some past success, maybe it's a sport, maybe it's an adjacent business success. Well, you already know what it's like to be confident in that area, and you have the skills. So all you have to do is map across the same experiences. So what you can do is you can close your eyes and picture what it feels like in that area where you have that confidence. What are the images that you get? What are you hearing? What are you feeling? And then you can map across those, what we call submodalities, to these other experiences in the current business context. Now, there's a lot more to it than just that. So I get into that a lot more in the work that I do, but you can do this practice and get started on it and you'll unlock a lot. Now, if you want to actually go through some of these processes in more depth, I have some more videos and tutorials that go through this for free. It's all in my Skool community that's completely free. I have the foundation inspection in there. And then I also have the anti-drift protocol in there, some free courses, resources. That's all in the description in the free Skool community. So you can check that all out in there too. And it goes into more depth with this, but that's the starting point. So capabilities first, then you make sure that you're mapping across previous confidence and success to this new area. You already have the identity of being a confident person, just not applied to the current business issue that you're dealing with, or relationship issue, or whatever issue it is that you're dealing with where you don't have the confidence. The next thing is step 3. I bring it back to the kingdom anchor. If you've watched my other stuff, you've heard me talk about the kingdom anchor before. This is just the highest logical level of change. It's your purpose, your spirituality and purpose. And what this is making sure that you have your spiritual connection and making sure that with this, you anchor your identity in God's purpose rather than your own ego. This is going to allow you to just not have this fear of judgment anymore. It's going to evaporate. The internal conflict evaporates because you know that you're doing something that's higher than just yourself and your own ego. So that is something that I always bring into this because it's going to help you so much when you're trying to really get that confidence and fix internal conflicts. So ask yourself, how does this apply to your current company or career? When you step into a meeting to raise your prices or address a new team of hires or whatever it is, you're not going to have that tightening in your chest. You're not going to be second guessing your words and trying to remember your fake affirmations that were trying to fake your confidence. Instead, you're going to lead with just a calm and sturdy and unshakable authority because your identity is fully aligned with your actions. Your identity, where you are a confident person, has been mapped across to this current context. That's really you. It's really stuff that you accomplished. It is who you are. That's the thing. You're removing all this internal conflict because as you go through this process, that inner voice that is doubting yourself will start to evaporate as you identify with the previous success that you've already had and the capabilities that you've already accomplished and worked towards. So, I want you to ask yourself, I want you to do a structural check right now for yourself. Where in your business are you currently trying to fake it? Where are you having struggles? And are you pretending to be a certain type of leader, but internally you just feel like you're lying to your team or yourself? Is any of that happening? Let me know in the comments, and I'll reply to every comment. So if you leave a comment, I will reply to it. If you want to talk to me more directly, you can always just join the Skool community. You can post in there or send me a DM, and I'll reply to all those as well. But the main thing here is just stop lying to yourself. Stop trying to manifest with affirmations. Do the actual identity work. If you want the exact blueprints, again, you can join the free Skool community for Man Rewired. You can talk to me there. You can book a one-on-one discovery call, and I'll be happy to help you through that. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one.